welcome. I'm Shivani Singh. In the world of diplomacy, what is said behind closed doors is often the polar opposite of what is told to the public. For 2 decades, the world suspected a secret bridge existed between the nuclear laboratories of Pakistan and the enrichment plans of Iran. Today, we have the smoking gun. A massive declassified US dossier released by the National Security Archive just this week in December 2025 has pulled back the curtains on private conversations between former US President George W. Bush and Russian President Vladimir Putin. These documents don't just suggest a link, they detail a systematic, high-level fear that Pakistan's nuclear junta was the primary engine behind Iran's quest for the bomb. Let's start with the label that is sending shockwaves through Islamabad. In these private transcripts, President Bush didn't refer to Pakistan as a strategic ally. He described it as a junta with a nuclear weapon. The dossier reveals that as early as 2001, the US and Russia were privately horrified by the lack of democratic control over Pakistan's arsenal. While the world was focused on the war on terror, Bush and Putin were discussing a much more terrifying prospect: that elements within the Pakistani military were actively selling the crown jewels of nuclear technology to the highest bidder. The documents reveal that Putin told Bush point blank, "There is no doubt Iran wants a nuclear weapon." He even admitted that Iranian specialists were hounding Russian experts for sensitive data, but that the real breakthroughs were for Tehran actually coming from the AQ Khan network in Pakistan. Now, one of the most damning moments in the dossier comes from a 2005 memo. In an Oval Office meeting, Putin informs Bush that IAEA inspectors actually found uranium of Pakistani origin inside Iranian centrifuges. Bush's response was chillingly blunt. He referred to it as the stuff the Iranians forgot to tell the IAEA about. This confirms that the US knew nearly 20 years ago that the core of Iran's enrichment capability, the P1 and the P2 centrifuges, were direct copies of Pakistani designs. But why did the West stay quiet then? The dossier suggests a stability trade-off. The US needed Pakistan's cooperation in Afghanistan so desperately that they chose to manage the nuclear risk privately rather than confront the junta publicly. It was a gamble that, as we see in 2025, has come with a massive geopolitical price tag. This brings us to the present. Why is this dossier being released now, late in 2025? Well, it provides the historical context for Operation Midnight Hammer, the 12-day war in June of this year where US and Israeli forces struck Iran's nuclear infrastructure. We now know that the sites targeted this summer, like Fordo and Isfahan, were built using the very blueprints discussed in these declassified files. The dossier highlights a recurring nightmare: the security of the source. Even today, the Pentagon remains obsessed with the safety of Pakistan's warheads. The fear expressed by Bush in 2001 that the collapse of a central government in Islamabad could lead to nuclear leakage to non-state actors is exactly what keeps the 2025 intelligence community awake at night. The AQ Khan trail isn't just a history lesson, it's a map of the current nuclear crisis. These files prove that proliferation isn't a series of accidents, it's a business. And when that business involves a junta with nukes, the entire world ends up paying the interest on the debt. The question for 2026 is simple. Can the world finally close the loop that began in a Pakistani lab 2 decades ago? Thanks for watching.
For more such videos, subscribe to the Newsx YouTube channel, hit the bell icon.